people are just tired of trying and they don't want to work it out, then I need to know.
Robyn, I think that you and I have had enough conversations about this that you know exactly where I am. And I am still here because I'm still trying. 6 years later, I'm still here. 10 years, 15, 20 years later, I'm still here. It's what I want.
Hello all, welcome back to the show. Don't forget to subscribe and like. There was no longer any heat in the house. The tension that had been accumulating for years had dried up the air and made it bitter, as if the walls themselves had begun to crack. Arguments and disillusionment were no longer the only problems. This was a spiritual rift. The corridor was engulfed by Cody's presence the moment he burst into the hallway. No sound could overwhelm the muffled thud of his boots on the wooden floor. He was through playing act. Tired of having to justify those who had made his heart a battleground, Dayton was the first to step out. With his rigid posture and wary but defiant eyes, Aurora trailed behind, clutching her phone as a lifeline, her own breath already constricting in her throat. Brianna did not come all the way down. She was visibly trembling as she looked out from the stairs. Robyn stood with her jaw set, and her face pallid at the kitchen island's edge. She was the one who had always placated, deflected, and used tears as a tool and a barricade. Even she knew then, though, that Cody truly was consoling. Cody spit out, "I want them out. Tonight, I want them gone. If they're staying here, I won't be staying another day." The silence that ensued was stifling. Robyn let out a harsh breath. Her face flushed with surprise. Her voice broke as she spoke. "They're your family. You raised them. You love them." Cody spoke back in a low, threatening tone. "I don't know what I raised anymore. All I know is that I'm tired of being controlled. I've had enough of subsidizing dysfunction. I'm done denying what my own eyes have seen." With trembling lips, Robyn approached and spoke. "Cody, you're discussing your children. They are not perfect. We're not, but discarding them like trash." He turned to Dayton, who didn't even flinch. "There are boundaries," Cody said sourly. "The boundaries that were transgressed a long, long time ago. I just wouldn't see it. The rest of the family is now suffering the price of you misusing my trust." Cody backed away as Robyn's hand flashed out at his arm. "Pack this night." After that, there was only Aurora's crying, and Dayton quietly, slowly creaking as he trudged upstairs. Meri had stepped out of the shadows like a wraith rising out of deep water from the far end of the hall near the front door. Her face was impassive, but her heart pounded as she gazed at the scene. She sat and said nothing. She did not do anything besides watch a man ruin a family for the salvation of their souls. The anticipation lasted for days. The family group chat has ceased discussing it. No one knew what to say. Not even Christine, who is so emotionally removed and lives so far away, only sent one thing. "Is it true?" She did not even get a response, but something shifted in Meri's stomach. She had been made a scapegoat for years, being told to remain silent, be understanding, and step aside for the greater good of unity. She had lost her voice. Now, however, Meri understood that silence was no longer the noble thing to do. Instead, it was complicity as she stood by and watched Robyn sob in the arms of her nearly adult children and watched Cody vent in hurt pride. Having concealed it in a locked box under her bed since Las Vegas, she removed the old brown file folder that was filled with dust. Years ago, during a frantic signing of LLC and landed documents, she had stumbled upon something odd. Bank statements associated with Robyn's trust, credit inquiries on Cody's name, purchases made at high-end shopping stores, and peculiar loans. She had questioned it quietly at the time, but Robyn had duped her into believing it was normal practice and simply part of asset consolidation. Meri knew now that it had never been the norm. She knew she could no longer keep it in. Meri was seated in the interview chair, isolated, earthed, and bold in a studio that the production crew had constructed to record a special follow-up series. She explained to the camera, "I stay silent because I think that defending the family was about embracing the truth. But defending the family is about accountability. For us to heal, it means calling out what is broken." She outlined the contradictions she found. The subtle ways Robyn's children had been exempted from accountability and others held to impossible standards. The difference between protection and privilege had become blurred. Cody did not want to see it, so he hadn't. Meri had let him do so, but that's finished now. Janelle watched in willful silence while the rest of the family strained to make sense of Meri's on-air reality. The prospect of an emotional reconciliation with Cody had long passed. Following years of contributing to a collective that did not work for her anymore, her journey was now one of survival, earning back her money and dignity. She never had transferred her holdings into the pulled LLC under the management of Robyn and Cody as opposed to the others. Now that the implosion was in process, she could appreciate how wise it had been for her to hold onto her land rights like a lifeline. Janelle scrambled through documents in her small home office, cluttered with Coyote Pass maps, framed diplomas, and family portraits. Her land was free, as the bank statements confirmed. Her accounts remained unaffected. Without Cody, she could build. Not with Robyn, not a single one of them. She filed to end the mutual interest in the common lots by the end of the week. Since she now had legal assistance, she was able to work on developing her portion of the property and, if necessary, exclude Cody from it. The last of the forms was signed during a private meeting with her lawyer. She said he always thought he had all the keys. But I've always had my own door. I'm walking through it now. Days afterward, Cody stood with his boots sunk into the frozen earth at the mouth of Coyote Pass. Like a threat, the wind screamed through the trees. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep and the suffocating pressure of falling apart, not from crying. He was losing it all he had given his heart to, even his faith in his divine mission, his place as a patriarch, and his religious leadership. Far off in the distance, he spotted Janelle working lines on foundation measurements and laughing with a contractor. Her guffaws were a soft whisper that ran over the field. She looked unrestrained. He could see Meri standing silently, but resolutely upon a small rise with her arms crossed. She did not shoot him an angry stare. She had the look of someone who had let go. Cody dropped to the ground. Each decision he had made in the interest of control weighed on him. All the children he had ignored. He had manipulated all of his wives. The ones he thought would never leave were already gone. Robyn would not speak to him. Her children had slipped away quietly, not even bothering to say goodbye, and the reality had been exposed by Meri. The illusion was shattered. Cody Brown held nothing anymore for the first time in his life. Weeks later, Meri stepped into her new home, the ringing of wind chimes shattering the silence. The house was small and modest, but it was hers. She was placing decades of misery and suppressed self into a memoir that would perhaps serve to let other people escape what she experienced. Early spring saw construction beginning on Janelle's house atop Coyote Pass. Her children helped with laying stone, carrying lumber, and painting walls. The clank of restoration, the sound of laughter, of freedom. And Robyn closed the curtains. She turned off the cameras. She did not spend a lot of time outdoors. Her face, which was once commonly seen on TLC teases and family billboards, dropped into quiet oblivion. Rumors of bankruptcy, legal issues, and Dayton's permanent absence spread. Robyn kept quiet because the truth had finally been revealed to the world, and there would be no further hiding of the truth. And there's more. Before selling the Brown family's Coyote Pass acreage for an incredible $1.5 million, Sister Wives star Cody Brown gave his ex-wives Meri and Janelle Brown larger interests of the Arizona property, giving them each $35,000. He essentially handed away $610,000. To put it another way, Cody appeared to be the ideal gentleman when he made that sacrifice. The issue is that Cody could have been in a lot of pressure to surrender his 97% interest in the property. Cody would mock the women who had been patient with him while he fell head over heels for another woman. He would ridicule them as entitled princesses. That derogatory remark is only the tip of the iceberg. Christine Brown, Meri Brown, and Janelle Brown are all wonderful women. They really attempted to make things function, taking decades before they offered a handout. After their breakup, they were charged with alienating their parents in return. So how can a man who does that end up as a Disney prince, dispensing favors on the ever-neglected Meri and the hard-pressed Cinderella Janelle? Maybe he did not change. Cody seemed to have resentment towards the ladies who shared so much of his life with him only to leave him just because he fell in love with another person. This does not appear very logical at first glance. How is it logical that Cody drove them away, and then seemed to be complaining about them? On the contrary, he views things differently, and believes that these women punished him for loving Robyn. There may be some basis for this. In the past, many marriages were viewed as less dysfunctional because it was often centered on the children. It sounded sweet, homemade, and emotionally satisfying. The family patriarch loved the children too, and they were doted on by multiple mothers. They coexisted and did fun group activities. But the pumpkin carving and sledding days were temporary. The dynamics were poisoned by the hatred that was brewing underneath, hurting Cody, the women, and the children. Human nature is ever present. It cannot be bottled. After decades, it was difficult for the women in polygamy to actually repress all of their feelings. Although they are trained to endure a condition of silent suffering when they feel very human feelings such as wrath and jealousy, sacred loneliness is defined by Mormonism Research Ministry as women being alone in multiple marriages. As demonstrated in the video above, Robyn and Cody are still fighting despite being monogamous. It's hard enough to make it work with one person, not four. Just think about how hard it must be for Cody to carry all the blame. He will be responsible for whatever does not go right. That is a lot of pressure on it. He is the family patriarch, and it was not his doing that he fell in love with Robyn. Cody has suffered as much as the rest of the family, even though he does have feelings. He is always subject to the villain edit because he is not given a fair hearing. Christine craved passion that her husband could not offer her and felt unwanted. With her present husband David Woolley, Christine found it. Janelle had similar hopes, at least on occasion, for an actual husband. Meri at the bottom of the pecking order couldn't gain Cody's friendship, not to mention his order after being kicked out after a sorry catfishing experience. 3 women were satellites around Cody and Robyn, who were on their own planet due to the mad and emotionally draining situation. Robyn, Cody, and their children comprised the core family in their universe. It was as if everything else was a secondary priority. The pressure on the family hit a breaking point during the pandemic. Cody's trips to his non-Rowan wives just made it impossible for the Browns to live their old way anymore. He was afraid of contracting the COVID-19 virus too much. After years, the time, love, and energy Janelle, Meri, and Christine put into the family were enormous, and it meant tremendous anguish when it came to an end. Because of this, the distance between the core family and the rest of them increased. It's so easy to snide about reality stars. In order to catch the attention of a man who was in love with someone else, they swallowed their pride a million times. It's humiliating. They all, though, endorsed multiple marriage, and in a bid to cleanse their minds, they needed to rethink their positions. In the above, Janelle focuses on what is working instead of Cody, which is definitely a step in the right direction. Human beings change as they grow old, and it also comes into play in this case. Everybody desires peace and enjoyment. The bickering grows tiresome. It's reported that one's attitude towards ego shifts during midlife, and they simply become different. They possess a wider view, and wish to make the most of their remaining years by living life and coexisting with others. Things that were previously crucial, but no longer, are not paid much heed. In a sense, the Brown family was also destroyed by the midlife crisis and its consequence. The individual spouts out when experiencing a midlife crisis and wants to turn back the hands of time towards their youth. They may rather regress. Next, there's a point in time when someone starts looking at their life in a very brutal and pathetic way. They take stock of what they want in the future, and whether they should really stick by the same ethics. All 4 Brown parents, Christine, Robyn, Janelle, and Cody, become older and mature. They've lost and lived. They have fought a lot. It's the end of the Coyote Pass war. Garrison Brown is gone. Everyone has been changed from the inside out by these experiences in life. Consequently, people are trying to go their own ways. Every member of the broken Brown family is on the move, but the directions are different. Of course, Cody may not have sold Coyote Pass to placate and simplify the lives of his former partners. They may have threatened legal action against him, and this is why he did it. But it wasn't strictly unreasonable for those women to expect more than the paltry sums they would have gotten if he had retained his full 97% interest. They also made contributions to the family. When he was responsible for the finances, Cody may have realized how unfair it was for him to have so much, and they had so little. Morally, this is all very sticky. Yes, he bought most of it with his own money, but his wives could not spend the family money as they wished. Cody had made the decisions since he was the head of the household. The issue of fairness comes in here. Fairness has been reinstated with the exception of Christine's being without a share, but that does not mean that Sister Wives star Cody is satisfied with his relationship with his ex-partners. In fact, more drama will likely ensue. Cody Brown, the center of Sister Wives Season 19, has an acrimonious relationship with quite a few of his children, but there are signs that the family is beginning to unite. The decline of the Brown family over the years is sad to contemplate. They seemed like such a pleasant set when the beloved unscripted show first hit the air in 2010. Unlike what is often presented on TV and in films, they presented an image of a successful polygamous family. The Browns all lived together in a Utah apartment at the time, and they were happy. Cody and his family's lives were totally different by the time season 19 of Sister Wives aired. Cody had 4 wives and 18 children at his peak. 3 of Cody's 4 wives have exited the marriage and the multiple families since 2021. Besides being monogamous with Robyn Brown, his fourth wife, Cody also noticed that several of his older children were barely talking to him. Cody just made a huge leap towards starting the healing process, even as he stubbornly refused to make amends with his children for the last few years. The Brown family lived different lives when audiences first met them in 2010 in Utah. They lived in a large complex that was built with polygamists in mind by a polygamist. There were a few apartments in the big house, where every wife and children could accommodate her family. Cody could look after all his kids daily. Despite the fact that he would travel from house to house after the Browns had vacated Utah and moved to several other homes, things altered. They never would reside within one house ever again. Cody no longer visited all of his children on a daily basis after they relocated into separate houses. The family was not together as much because the houses were further apart. It seemed like the perfect arrangement when the Browns had many houses on a cul-de-sac, but it did not pan out. Each season of Sister Wives appeared to have the Browns in a different residence, since they were always changing locations. Filming for Sister Wives happened all over Utah, Arizona, and even in Las Vegas in different phases. The cast of the show then bought a considerable amount of property in Arizona in order to improve it. The belief that every wife would build a house, and that their children will one day build houses of their own. While it was a nice idea, it never materialized. Before they could ever build anything on the land at Coyote Pass, the Browns fell apart. The Browns' Arizona land, which had sat for many years in a state of undevelopment, was sold for a significant profit. Cody wed Robyn in 2010, introducing her and her 3 children from her first marriage into the fold. 2 of the couple's offspring would be born later. The overall dynamic of the group was changed by the addition of the new family wing. The Sister Wives season 19 patriarch didn't have time for his older kids anymore because there were so many more children to take care of. So much resentment followed from this. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck the world in 2020, all of it finally boiled over. The Brown family was already having issues prior to COVID-19 coming along. The rifts that existed were brought to the surface by the pandemic. Cody was the most cautious of the households, and consequently he would be gone for long periods of time from his older children. The rift was between Cody and several of his sons whom he accused of being careless. He was so fearful of traveling that he even missed Isabel Brown's scoliosis surgery. During the holiday season, Cody and Robyn instilled the rule that relatives cannot come visit if they don't adhere to tight COVID restrictions like disinfecting food items, changing clothing upon arrival inside, and taking out mail to be left for 24 hours outside. Cody didn't allow older kids to have Thanksgiving and Christmas with them due to the fact that they were not able to follow his viral containment measures. The Browns' first holiday season apart was due to the pandemic. For them it was the beginning of the end. Cody's third wife, Christine Brown, left due to coke. Christine had been unhappy, but she felt it would be better for her to leave after Cody and Robyn wouldn't allow her to see his other wives. They were married 27 years, and had 6 children together. Janelle Brown, Cody's second wife, divorced him 1 year later after 29 years of marriage and 6 children. Meri Brown, Cody's first wife, was the final one to leave. She left after 32 years of marriage, and a single child in 2022. Cody recently revealed that he had dated Christine's children in Utah on a recent Sister Wives season 19 episode. Cody has not kept in touch with any of his other children except for Michael T. Brown. 2 of his sons by another woman were there. Cody says this could be Logan Brown, Hunter Brown, or Gabriel Brown, Janelle's sons. It is lovely that Cody is finally starting to make peace after losing contact with some of his children. Last week's Sister Wives was brutal. The Brown family was open and emotional about the unthinkable passing of Garrison Brown. Dedicated fans have been following the family since they hit rock bottom years ago, but no one expected this tragedy. The polygamous clan agreed to be filmed by TLC during their most vulnerable moments. As always, Janelle Brown was the rock that kept her family intact. As fans watched her describe the horrific moment, she received the call telling her that her precious baby had passed away. Janelle was honest. The 6-time mother has managed, however, to cope with the loss in ways that fans of Sister Wives love and hold up as highly admirable. With the first anniversary of the event now behind her, she thanked her fans on Instagram after Sunday's episode aired. Grasping that we did the best we could in the end has not come easily. The reality star shared that sometimes the mind tricks a person into thinking there is no hope, despite all the evidence to the contrary. I became starkly aware of how much I need this new chapter somewhere new after spending the past week in Flagstaff. There were reminders of Garrison everywhere I turned. Throughout the episode, Fans learned that Garrison had been struggling since CO19. Janelle asserts that he would sometimes experience bouts of heavy drinking, which often led to blackouts. I'm so thankful for all my kids, and particularly for my grandbabies. They are really life-giving, she told her fans. And I know that I will see Garrison again, because of my faith. I am so comforted by that assurance. Fans learned more from the Sister Wives episode than they could have ever imagined. Janelle talked about Garrison's last hours on Earth, with the assistance of her daughter Meri Brown. She and her son had been texting all day long, and it wasn't abnormal because he and I conversed possibly 3 times a day. Janelle said of Garrison's struggles with depression and anxiety, "I knew that he was having a hard time," as she remembered that her and Garrison's latest conversation wasn't an out-of-the-ordinary one. Janelle further explained, "And I always just call up, and I always just go out of my way to just chat to him. It was just I believe he did require the relationship," she expressed. Don't forget to mention that in the comments, and we'll catch up more on it when you subscribe to our channel by clicking this button. Cheers, guys!